Hello, everyone. Welcome to my amazing, horrific story that I call The Devil Follows Me. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Before I begin, I'd like to say, before I start off telling you guys this horror story, I by no means made this up. And I've told a few people this story, and I didn't think very much of it until I realized my significance as a prophet of who I am and what I know. Now, this story isn't going to be unlike any story you have ever heard. And I imagine this story isn't going to be anything that anyone ever would have thought that I was going to say. Because I can imagine most people think this is going to be some sort of story of walking through a graveyard or going into a haunted house. And the truth is, this story is a lot more complicated and different than you, I can imagine, are even thinking. Now, I would like to make this very clear and swear on the Holy Bible, on my life, swear to God, that this is true. Now, as far as is this story spectacular, I can't say for sure because I really don't know what to think of it besides what I have titled the video. And as a prelude to the story I'm about to tell you, this all happened spontaneously and in a way where it's just kind of one of those things where you know something's going on, you really just don't know what. Prior to this story taking place, I had deeply begun embarking upon a journey with deep revelation, deep insight, and understanding of the apocalypse, the end of the world, and Satan potentially, possibly being real. Could it be that I was one of the only people to know that he is real? Well, not the only one. I'm not the only one who thinks that the devil is real. And prior to me revealing more of my story, what was I gonna say? And before I continue, remember, I did not write down a script or practice or rehearse the unveiling of my story that I'm going to share. Now, I could have shared this story long ago, not too long ago, because the story took place, it was around, I guess, around 2013. It may have been around 2014. And I believe it was maybe around October, maybe right after October. And before I go into the details of the story, I'm trying to remember what I was saying about the apocalypse and the revelation. So, it was around 2012 where it really began to sink in on what I knew and what I was understanding. How I was kind of a little bit more out there than most normal people. And I, in my opinion, did find myself to be smarter than most average people as far as being able to, understand things on a deeper level and a deeper meaning. That's why now I'm releasing the video. I've decided that I understand what it means. I've come to the conclusion that it's time to share the story. And I've thought of sharing this story before. And the only reason I haven't, as far as before now, was I really wasn't too sure of what to say, or how to say it, or what it meant. And the time has come. I have decided I understand. I know what it means. So, I'm going to get into the story. It's not really a long story. And I think that makes this story probably a little more interesting, since you don't have to listen to the story for very long and sit there wondering, well, what is the story? What's he going to say? Because it's just kind of a really short story, because there isn't very much to say about it. Now, I'm going to end my prelude and introduction of the video, since I feel I haven't informed much detail revolving the situation that I could really put into words, or even that needs to be put into words. So, without further ado, I bring to you a story, a real story that happened to me, 100% real. I swear on the universe. I swear on my life. I swear on the Holy Bible. I swear to God that this story is real. Now, I don't know how out of the ordinary this actually is, So I think that makes for a good time to actually finally tell it and maybe let everyone come up with their own idea and think about the story and what it means for them, for their own self, because I'm sure it's always going to mean more to me. Well, I mean, we do have to consider I am the one who experienced what I saw. So it's always going to have a greater impact on me. But I do emphasize and stress that by no means do I encourage anybody to imagine that this were a coincidence or an accident. Now, I don't want to go on too long with the introduction, so I'm going to begin my story. This story is called The Devil Follows Me. I call this story The Devil Follows Me for the simple fact that for a long time, like a splinter in my mind, I knew things. I saw things. I understand things that most other people don't. And it wasn't until I became very highly impressed and inspired with my own ability and potential that I realized how special that I was and how much it really meant. And I just developed, and it all happened like a plant growing out of the ground, you know. One day you wake up and everything has changed. So the story goes, late one night as I was getting off of work at the casino, I would guess around 2013. I couldn't imagine it being 2014, but it might have been 2014. It was a regular night. There wasn't very much to notice about the day or the night. Nothing really out of the ordinary besides what the story is going to tell you. So I got off work early, and it was late. It was around 12 o'clock at midnight. Maybe 12:20 after midnight. I had just left work from the casino. I always, get off work and then I drive home. And when I drive, I always put on trance music and techno music. And that's a big part of why I never really released the story. I didn't think it was too out of the ordinary, because I just figured, man, it must have been my techno music or my trance music, that this is why it happened. So what happened, it was around, it was about 10 minutes, more like 5 minutes after leaving work, maybe around 10. I was driving, enjoying my drive. I'm a safe driver, you know, not speeding. Cruising home, looking forward to getting home, getting on the computer, browsing the internet, watching some movies, playing some games. It was just a regular night. Nothing out of the ordinary. And lo and behold, I live in Colorado, so I'm in the mountain. And I had just got outside of town, or outside of the casino range, because this is in Cripple Creek, Colorado. So I had left Cripple Creek, and I had begun winding down the mountain, getting ready to wind down the mountain. But it was still in the mountains, because it was right outside of Cripple Creek. And it happened so fast that I couldn't even really understand, like, what just happened. And I was, like, shocked, and I was just surprised, and I was just perplexed, and there were times right after it happened, you know, I was like rubbing my eyes, like, did I just see that? Was this real? Am I seeing things? Am I dreaming? I can't believe this. So what happened was, it's not just what happened, it's a matter of how it happened. And I swear to God, I swear on every single detail. I'm telling you every detail. I'm gonna, as if you're sitting in the driver's seat driving. What I saw, I'm gonna try to make it as if you saw. So everything's going normal, nothing really too out of the ordinary. And I'm driving down this maybe half a mile straightaway in the middle of the mountains, and there's really nothing around. You know, maybe one house, a water well, and, you know, a bunch of trees and off in the far distance. Because other than that, we're talking, we are in an open field, and that's also what makes it really strange, is it wasn't like I was deep inside of the woods or in the mountains, because I was in the middle of like a valley, flatlands, so there wasn't really nothing around. Well, that's why I was also probably in so much shock and wondering, what the hell did I just see? What just happened? Now, at this point, I'm sure everybody is so curious of like, oh, what did he see? What happened? Now, without further ado, I'm going to tell you what happened and what I saw. So I was driving down maybe a quarter mile straight away, maybe up to half a mile straight away, with a small curve toward the end. And I was listening to my music. It was a normal drive until this had happened. And I was looking ahead of me, and take into consideration, I was the only one on the road at the time. There wasn't anybody else. I was the only one. Because it was after 12 midnight, getting out of the casino. in the middle of the mountain. So there wasn't really nobody around. It's not always like that. Sometimes there may be somebody leaving the mountain too, but just so happens that this time there was nobody around. There wasn't anybody. And I had just curved around a corner going through this flatland space. And I noticed something and I saw something. And it happened really quick. So off in the distance, I see something racing towards my car, coming like directly at my car. Like literally, like it was almost like a head-on collision. It was almost as if you could imagine a car in your lane coming straight at you. And that's also what kind of spooked me out, is I'm all thinking, what is this? And it's like, what is this coming directly at me? So there are a few things that make this pretty strange. And I had noticed, after it got closer and it was racing towards me, flying. Anybody guess what was flying towards me? I don't want to ruin it, since I've already made it so dramatic. So I'll give everybody a few seconds to imagine what had flown directly towards my car. So take 5 seconds, pause the video if you don't want me to spoil it. I'm going to let everybody think about it. Okay, so maybe you thought about it. Off in the distance as it approached, I realized there appeared to be what looked like to me a vampire bat that was coming directly at my vehicle. This is not your ordinary vampire bat. And that's the only reason I figured it was worth making into a story, and that I knew that this was something out of the ordinary. Okay? So, what makes it even weird, what makes it really weird and strange, this was not your ordinary vampire bat. It was as if somebody was controlling it. It was as if somebody commanded it to send me a message, like it was being instructed. Why do I say that it acted as if it was being instructed, and it didn't seem very accidental? Well, before I go into a little more detail, the first thing I thought, I didn't think anything of it really. I didn't think it was very weird, because I had my techno music on and my trance music on. And I figured that must have got its attention. It must have heard it. And that could be what it was, but there's more to the story. So what makes it really weird is the size of this bat was unlike any bat I've ever seen for my own self, in real life at least. Most bats I've seen are, those really small bats. So what makes this even stranger is when the bat approached my vehicle, it had a wingspan of, I would guess, between, I would say, 5 feet up to 7 foot long. Huge, gigantic. It was almost as if it was the size of my car. In fact, it happened so quickly. That was almost the biggest detail that I could remember about the bat, aside from one other thing. So as the giant bat had approached my vehicle, it all happened very quick, in less than maybe 5 seconds or maybe 8 seconds. Because I was like kind of squinting when it was way ahead of my car coming at me, and I was all thinking, what is that? What is going on? And it happened so quick. But what happened, what's really weird, is as soon as it got really close, kind of in range, where I could really kind of make out vivid detail, I distinctively remember some really weird things that it did, and that's why I bring up the idea that I think it was almost as if it was charmed and under control. What do they call it? Incarnated. Because in games you can incarnate animals, and then they do what you tell them. So the bat approached my vehicle, and when it was around, I think it was maybe 5 foot, about 10 foot to 5 foot in front of my vehicle, the bat kind of spread its wings out as far as it could, almost as if a bird were starting to glide in the wind and be lifted up by the wind force. So the bat spreads its wings larger than the size of my car. My car is a small Subaru. One thing's for sure, its wingspan was larger than the width of my Subaru. 100%. Huge. It was gigantic. And it kind of floated above my windshield and spread its wings. So it like kind of swooped down on me, and then it spread its wings and then like kind of glided above over my vehicle. But that wasn't it. I vividly remember it was as if I was kind of, because I pressed my head kind of up toward the windshield and looked up to just keep looking at it like, oh my gosh, this thing just flew over my vehicle. I vividly remember the bat as if it screamed at me. It was screaming at me, and its fangs, it like opened its mouth and showed its fangs. And I conclude, based off what I've come to discover, that the devil follows me.